special meeting at 1 o'clock for appointment of Senate District position. That way we
So it's 5-1,
501,
no, 1-5-7-1, after the 9.
1571,
317,
317,
3116.
3116. Are you kidding
Did
me?
you push 9?
Oh, you know what?
Yeah. Just so you got hung up and you don't do these things.
Well, no.
Okay, so give me the number again.
No, so 9-1-5-7-1, 317, 3116.
You hang up and don't do that style. The number with it hung up. Do 9.
Yeah, don't push dial first.
Okay.
You wanted to do it.
Alright, 9, 541. Or no, sorry. Give me again.
So 9-1,
Yep.
5-7-1,
571,
317,
317,
3116, and then push dial.
3116.
Yeah, that's right opposite of what you think it would be.
Please enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign.
763 357 805.
To enable audio control, please enter your audio PIN followed by the pound or
185.
hash sign. If you do not have a PIN,
Yep. Kelly, Paul, and May are all there in person.
Who's the chair for this? Did anybody notify us who the chair was? Hello?
They might have you.
We're here, we're listening to you. We haven't started yet. The judge hasn't convened it yet.
We're not right at the hour. We will in just a few minutes. She's trying to call in to find out who's on the phone, David.
Alright, that's fine. This is Lake County Commissioner Winters, Commissioner Williams, and Commissioner Albertson.
Perfect, perfect.
Grant County Commissioner Sam Palmer.
And I'm fine. And Jefferson County Commissioner Wayne Fording. Wayne, good. Wayne's here.
Could we need to turn this on so everybody else can see?
has it on.
It's the green light on. On top, right on top.
It's just all us.
That's what you want.
Whenever you guys are ready, please come right first. And then, what's gonna be 40 for Jefferson County. And Sam.
Yeah, that's Nam County. Was there one more? Well, Wayne.
Tony.
Tony Bone on there? Tony?
No Tony yet? That's from Wheeler County.
Wheeler County?
Is anybody from Wheeler County on the phone yet?
Okay.
No.
Right. Late now. Okay, it's time to call this meeting to order. I'm designated by the Secretary of State, 2 p.m. Mountain Time. First off, we'll do the pledge of allegiance. Here.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So we'll do an oral roll call. This is Malheur County. Larry Wilson, here. Don Hodge, here. Dan Joyce, here. And announce your names. Okay, down the line. Yeah. Bruce Nichols, Baker County. Mark Bennett, Baker County. Phil Harvey, Baker County.
We're not catching any of those names on the phone. It's about
Wayne Fording, Jefferson County. Sam Palmer, Grant County.
Scott
Travis Ford, Wasco County.
Scott Hagee from Wasco County.
Steve Kramer?
Yeah, Steve Kramer's here.
Okay. Who else did he not get?
James Williams, Lake County.
Mark Albertson, Lake County.
Brad Winters, Lake County.
Kathy Swartz?
I'm here, Wasco County.
Oh,
Kathy
There
Ford.
you go. Perfect. How about, Wheeler County? Doug Morley? Commissioner Ordway? Commissioner Schaefer? Okay. Okay, this meeting is recorded, audio. In order to make the record keeping purposes up to date, Malheur County staff will serve as a recording secretary. And the purpose of this meeting is to appoint a person to fill a vacancy in Oregon Senate District 30 due to the resignation of State Senator Cliff Sands, who I believe is in the audience. The appointment will be made from the list of nominees from the Republican Party Precinct Committee persons as furnished by the Secretary of State. The nominees are Lynn Finley, Rod Runyon, Eric Wattenberg. We need to decide on some meeting rules. We're going to do an oral vote. Any objections to an oral vote? Apparently there's none. Then suggested there's one question for county commissioner or judge. Any objections? Nope. Not you, huh? Also, 3 minutes per nominee to introduce themselves. 2 minutes to answer questions. 2 minutes for nominee to summarize their position. Malheur County Treasurer Jennifer Forsythe has offered to serve as the timer, and she's over underneath the clock. ORS does require that a written vote of each person be recorded and included in the written statement provided by the Secretary of State. This document will be signed at the conclusion of the meeting and disseminated to those participating by phone. Each nominee will be offered the opportunity to introduce themselves and speak for 3 minutes. We've already established the order and it's backwards because I read it upside down, but after the nominees have spoken, there will be a session which allows 2 minutes per nominee to answer questions from the county commissioners and county judges. No questions will be taken from the public, and questions are limited to 1 per commissioner. After the question and answer session, each nominee will be offered 2 additional minutes to summarize their position and then deliberation. The vote will be taken in a manner previously agreed upon by the majority. Staff will tally the votes. We have Malheur County Clerk Gail Trotter, Harney County Clerk Dag Robinson, and Jefferson County Administrative Officer Jeff Rasmussen will tally the votes. Nominees may be present to observe. Once votes are counted, results for each nominee will be orally announced by the chair. The nominee with the most votes will be announced. The statement of appointment will be completed and signed by all commissioners and judges present. The statement will be scanned and emailed to those participating by phone for their signatures. Malheur County staff will forward the completed document to the Secretary of State's office. So, I believe it is time for us to hear the candidates. Doctor, let's you go first. Eric Wattenberg. Okay, so who's that? Everybody can see. What'd you say? 3 minutes.
Thank you, Pastor. Here, I wanted to be seeing group for this position. I was here 2 years ago, almost 11 here, but John Dale was 2 years ago, same thing. Or at that point, but Vince, John, thank you, good luck moving forward. We've got a big hill to climb, a big competition on. So why me? I think I'm one guy who really has never been a government employee that I can think of other than working at a rural health clinic for 7 years. So I understand rural health care, Medicaid, small town medicine, small town life like nobody. I grew up in a small mountain town. I got to go back here and practice for 7 years. Now I practice in essentially a rural Oregon, or rural area in Oregon, Redmond. I'm not from Redmond, that's great. Desire to be there. It sisters, was just the right size. Where I came from was half that size. And when I won't be able to take issues like healthcare, I've always been on radio. I do talk radio every Sunday evening for 2 hours live call and talk radio bend to Oregon. If you're alone, this you stream it out here. You can't get live over the airways. I've been doing talk radio 5 years now. I do it because it needs to be done, because people have questions. It's live talk radio. This is another call-in podcast, later recorded, replayed. I get it. I can stand up and debate with anybody just about anything. But if you understand healthcare, which is a huge issue in the state of Oregon, I spent about 8 hours yesterday going over the Oregon budget. For one, $88 million for a biannual budget in the state of Oregon. The stats I saw, and again, that's almost twice what most other states are spending per capita on a budget. But depending on which part of the budget you look at, whether it's general fund, lottery, whether it's what they call other, or whether it's federal funding, they're all split, more or less about a third. I think some over 25 billion, others are 33 billion. Healthcare, at least in the federal part of that, is 41% of that budget, I think, that comes to the feds goes to just Oregon Health Authority. If you can understand healthcare, you can understand anything else that goes on in this state. Healthcare is going to vary in this state. It's the reason we have the cap tax. It's the reason why all of those other tax initiatives have failed. The state's been trying to make up for their irresponsibility. They took on the Medicaid expansion and then threw up their hands and said, oh, so now we can't afford this. Well, they were told from day one they could afford what they would have to do to afford Medicaid expansion. In year 3, the states have to start taking up only 5%, and that's bankrupt for the state. You can thank your cat tax for that. But introductions or questions, Rick?
We'll do the questions after the beverage relay. Rod?
Hi there, my name is Ron Runyon. I know most of you, and I thank you for making the travel easier. I would love to see one of these some cases coming from someone's way. I was a Western County Commissioner for 8 years, and before that, I was a Commissioner for Development, Industrial Development. For the Dallas Commissioner, I worked with a lot of water issues over the years, and I worked with building an industrial park. Those are important items in Senate District 30. I think I have experience in that area. One of the things I did as a park commissioner was I was on the team that brought Google to the Northwest. Well, that was first, and then they proceeded to follow. And I know a lot about working in that area. Now we have Amazon, we have Facebook, those kinds of things. And that may be what we need to be looking at to help with the latest industrial park that is headed this way. It's going to be hard to find businesses on the east side. So I think that experience have made you very helpful in that era. I'm planning commissioner for 4 years. It was my first, salvo into politics. I was in a appointed position with the city of Dallas back in the day. And again, water issues were a huge criteria then. So I think I have experience on the ground in some areas very important to the Senate district. On top of that, with the AOC, the Association of Oregon Counties, I was a chair. And one particular year, I was the treasurer and on the executive board. I was chair of the Veterans Committee, testified in the legislature a number of times.
both on veterans issues and on economic development issues, another committee that I was on. And the big thing was always talking to the legislators about the urban rural divide. I understand it very well. I grew up as a kid. My uncle had a small horse ranch in Redmond, then moved to Madras, worked in Deschutes, Jefferson counties, and you know, I know what it's like out here. And I'm a patriot, right? And 5 of the counties in the district are counties that I already do veterans work in right now. The others are a hop and a skip. I have the energy and the ability to get the job done as best as I possibly can. You know, I don't make promises without trying to keep them. And if I can't keep them, you're going to hear from me and you'll know why I wasn't able to. It's just really important that we're all out there trying to do the best we can. I've always said that, you know, there's no politics in a pothole. County commissioners know that well. We work on the ground. I think the experience of being a county commissioner is extremely valuable moving on to the Senate and or the House, either one. It is a big, big deal. I'm ready to go. I'm still on the phone since I left office a year ago with legislators, with agency heads, with lobbyists. There are things going on, and I'm still involved. In fact, I couldn't sit still, so I ran for city council, and I'm currently a city councilor in the Dallas. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Is Judge Morley on the phone? Yes. Are you muted? Okay, thank you. How about Commissioner Schaefer? Rick Schaefer? Oh, good. Okay. That's good. And you guys can mute your phone on your end if you want to.
They have that.
Oh. Well, yeah, I can tell. Okay.
Thank you. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Len Finley. I'm currently serving as a state representative for House District 60. This is all Southeast Oregon. A little bit of my occupational background. I've spent the last 2 years as a state representative. I spent 5.5 years before that as the city manager for the city of Vail. I spent 32 years before that as Bureau of Land Management, wildland firefighter. I retired from the BLM as a senior aviation program manager at office in Washington, D.C. and office in Boise. I was responsible for the national and local budgets. I have extensive program management as well as budget experience at all levels. While city manager, one of my greatest goals was I updated the comprehensive plan at 215 acres of the urban growth boundary of industrial land. I believe that is the key for economic development in Eastern Oregon. We're being right now on land use planning. Prior government experience, I spent 9 years on the Mount County Planning Commission, 3 as chair. I was on the Lakeview City Planning Commission. I was a member of the Mount County Rural Lands Board, the Mount County Comprehensive Plan Goal Rewrite Committee, Southeast Area Commission on Transportation, and I currently serve on the Mount County Economic Development Board as the vice chair. While I'm in the House, I serve on the Revenue Committee. I'm the vice chair of the Revenue Committee. I'm the vice chair of the Joint Tax Expenditure Committee. I'm on the Veterans and Emergency Preparedness Committee, the Energy and Environment Committee, the Joint Transportation Committee. I serve on the Emergency Board, and my colleagues in the House Republican office elected me as the whip this last term. The governor has appointed me as the convener for the East Oregon Regional Solutions Team, and I was also served on the Wildland Fire Council this last summer in response to all the wildfires in Southeast Oregon. I introduced legislation last session that made it through the House. My colleagues in the Senate had it in Oregon, so they could have voted on it. I'm sure we could have got it through the Senate. But it dealt with land use stuff. It dealt with giving more authority to local units to have some more vested. I made a speech 3 weeks ago at the Oregon Leadership Forum about how stifled Eastern Oregon is, the rural urban divide, how big it is, and it mostly deals with land use stuff. One size fits all does not work. You need to have more authority, you need to have more ability. I worked diligently on bipartisan effort, got it out of the House, and it didn't make it through the Senate. I believe in community outreach. In the 2 years I've been in this position, I had 55 plus town halls, coffee hours, meet and greets, civic organization meetings, community meetings, and just constituent discussions.
I've always believed I've worked with the 55,000 people in my district, and hope to be 120,000 in the future, and their feedback is critical. I also hope that in conjunction with my illustrious senator, monthly town hall meetings and done. Thank you.
So let's start with questions on your end, Bill, and then we'll go to the phone after we come down here. I believe so. I think they all work.
I think it's right.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the commissioners and what we do here today, and really thank you for stepping up to run today. I wish some of us you would move to other districts that we could use you in also, but it's great having choices. The first question I have, because of the size of this district, you know, and you're all representative of the northern corner and the Chief County corner of Ontario. How will you what will you do to represent the various parts of the district? How will you plan your time and how will you make appearances to the sector of that?
Sure. Pass this microphone around. Go forward.
Okay, so I'm the guy down in the little southwest corner of this whole district, but the upshot is I'm only an hour and 45 minutes to Salem. 4.5 hours from Ontario. I travel back and forth to California quite often, family and business. We have a 3,000 acre cattle ranch from Susanville. I'm driving through Lakeview, or down through Pine Falls, that's what I have. The ranch uses through Lakeview, basically, about 31. Getting up the highway up to Dallas, Easy Cave, under 2 hours from there. So out of the three of us, I think I'm certainly the one that can access all parts of this very easily. I've got the time to do it now. I've got a 31-foot hard box travel trailer built right in the ground. Nice new truck. We travel through this area all the time. My mother goes to school in Utah, so out there. I get it. I get to travel. Grew up in a very rural, small mountain town in northeast California. And you just travel. That's part of life. You don't expect to see 15 minutes everywhere. And traveling and representing the whole district is a piece of cake for me. It really does need to be, this whole eastern part of Oregon, central Oregon, this really needs to be redistricted. And I'll tell you the truth, the way this Senate District 30 is brought out really is a disservice to everybody in that district. But you gotta make the best of what you got. And, you know, life in sisters up against the Cascade is very similar to what it is out here. Not quite as much agricultural, more forestry, a lot of tourism there, or dealt with some of the things that other counties are also facing. Agriculture out here is huge. I get a Brooklyn construction business, ranching town. Drove around Baker County yesterday. Stayed out there with some dear friends, and drove over halfway before the snow started coming down already. So came back, I was looking at group all the way around the Union like that. That's a great place. I'm going to stand since I'm the shortest of the three. Travel is no problem whatsoever from to Dallas to anywhere. As I mentioned, the Solicitor Chapman and the Patriot Guard riders, 5 of the counties I'm already in. I travel this area all the time. Malheur County is one of those counties. Grant County is one of those counties. Wheeler and Wasco, and I'm trying to think what just pull out my head. 5 altogether anyway. And so I'm down there all the time. My wife's sister lives in Boise. I used to be there in the radio business a few decades back. So we are this way all the time. One of the big things that I did when I came in as county commissioner, there was a lack of real transparency in our county with southern Wasco County, which itself is a little bit of a drive for our folks. And one thing we did, along with Scott Hickey, he and I came on together, we implemented town halls every 3 months. And I would see that kind of thing happening again and more often at times as necessary, depending on long session or short session. I'm always listening to the chairs of the different parties and the different groups, the political groups in
counties and decide what's best and what works for them. Not just walking around at the fair, oh, that store is good. But, you know, are there central committee meetings that need to be attended, are there Democratic central committee meetings that need to be attended? Because you represent everybody, so traffic's not a problem. I'm a high energy guy, I come out on my motorcycle with my jacket, with my tour box. I leave for Washington DC in May, and, I ride with the veterans group back to Washington DC and pitch issues. I have about 8,000 miles on that bike by the time I get back. I've done that 4 times. And we'll see how this works out. I may have to delay this year. We'll see. But, you know, travel's not a problem. I enjoy it. But for taking this drive, you can expect to see me even more on my line. Thank you. You have to stand up, so of course I'll stand up. Well, thanks for the question. First of all, I do it now. I mean, when I drive to Salem, I drive through all of Senate District 30. It's not, I put 39,000 miles on my car last year, going out, meeting, reading, listening to folks. The best part about this job is the ability to go out and meet and greet, have a demo, I organize meetings, and it's a great thing. I certainly enjoy that. Yeah. But it's not an issue. When I drive to Salem, I drove back to Salem 2 weeks ago. I stopped in Citrus, spent the night in, went to Madras, and spent some time at the Citrus Airport, met a lot of different folks on my way home. Stopped at Burns, met with some people in Burns on my way home. It's just an easy thing to do. So the distance is not a concern to me at all. I believe that to adequately do this job, we have to get out, we have to meet folks and represent. A person asked me last year, what's my priority for my district? I said, which county do you want to talk about? Because it's different in every county. And right now I have 5, but I'd be honored to have 9. So that's where I'm at.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming today. And hopefully we will be back to be much a part of our history before it's time. My question is a 2-part question this afternoon. First of all, the state of Oregon has a first problem of liability. I'm wondering what you have thought about that problem and solutions that you as a visual not with. And also, have you either adopted the private occurrence or would you private occurrence? Question. Thank you for your
Thank you. Part 2, I was offered to sign up for FERS when I became a legislator. I refused. I declined that option. I am not a member of FERS. First part of the question. I believe FERS is broken. The fix that we did in the legislature last year was not a fix. It was a smoke and mirror kicking the can down the road. It made everybody warm and fuzzy. They stood in front of the 5 o'clock. You said, we fixed FERS. Well, we didn't. And we're still close to fixing FERS. The thing we have to do about FERS is really just start again. We have a contractual obligation to tier 1, 2, and 3 employees. I call them tier 3 employees. And I would honor that contract. But from every day, from today on, every employee hired would be in a new tier. It would be a tier 4. And it would be similar to the private side. And it would stop the dedicated, guaranteed returns that people have now. And then they'll have to get out of it. But we have an obligation, we have to fix it, we have to stop doing it in the 5 o'clock meetings and we need to get down to the light.
Well, what you heard me talk about the same things that Lynn talked about here yesterday, or Saturday rather. Yeah, and I was in FERS for 8 years as a Wasco County employee. That's great. The promises made should be kept, absolutely. And I talked about the same thing on Saturday. It should be a 4th and a 5th. I'm an officer. I'm not tier 1, tier 2. I was an officer. Very different. But it's broken administratively as well. That's what the real problem was a number of years ago. If you go back 2-3 decades, and when variable rates were in the 12 and 13% range, and people had a fixed rate of 8, they paid 12 to everybody that goes in the fixed rate. And when they discovered that they made that mistake, they say, hey, we need to pay some money back. You were in the fixed rate, you shouldn't have got that return. No, they just left it alone. That's the kind of administration and management we've had over a lot of years. I'm not going to fix it just by talking. We've got to take some serious action. The unions are going to be the problem, but there needs to be another tier, maybe 2 more tiers going forward, and some good
division between types of work or whatever. Those things are things we really need to work hard on. So it's not gonna be easy, and it's gonna be a big fight, that's for sure. But we do have to keep the promises. The people that want to do it, we're not taking any money away from anybody that's always been there. That's important.
Not a first expert, I've been a public function, and will be, have to be. I worked in the private sector my whole life, I had to take care of myself, make my own retirement. And this lesson came out of the, PCP meeting that, and my statement, for example, is government needs to get out of guaranteeing pensions for anybody. Put the money if you really need to ensure their retirement, do it like the private sector does, put it into private sector retirement plans. Let the people decide how much they want to put in, when they want to take it out, how they're going to use it, when do they want to retire, if they have enough to retire. The system was set up decades ago when life expectancy was under 60 years old. You could get away with it. You probably run into a Social Security. It's a third rail of politics. Nobody has been willing to make anything of it and do the right thing. I was talking to some people who really older, who have their pensions out of private companies, but they know of people who have been on state-run pensions. And they bring up the fact that how can somebody retire after 30 years, collect their full pension, and then go back and be a contract employee back to the government and still collect their first pension? We've got issues like that that make no sense. I don't know what the status of the two gentlemen next to me is with regards to their first, but, you know, are they still going to collect their retirement that they collected while they're back in office on the state payroll? It's a big issue. So I don't pretend to be an expert on this subject, but hey, if I can tackle healthcare reform, healthcare finance, I think I'm using that for the issue is that the people watching the hen house has got to be taken care of. That's Fox watching the hen house. And anybody that's in that system is going to have a built-in conflict of interest. Plain and simple, no matter what it's said.
Thank you. The cap and trade is still moving over our city. What are your gentlemen's plans to try to reduce the damage to rural area? First of all, Baker County was another county for our Captain. Captain Trade, they're working on it right now, you know, the D's are working on it right this very moment. It's a secret society situation going on right now. It's gonna be a fight right off the bat. You know, we'll have to talk to our leader again, but the word walkout is still out there again. And it may have to be that way. One of the things that they're working on, and this is the part I don't understand how it gets, when I read the material, how they change it, but Senator Denver wants to change the quorum requirements. That's how he's hoping to get by, but in the short session, I don't see how that happens. So maybe we can let this one by, but it's going to continue to come up. And there are also a couple of organizations looking to put something on the ballot. It is a fight. It's going to be a fight, and whether happens in the legislature, it may be happening at the ballot box. This is where most things should be anyway on this kind of thing. As far as the legislature goes, it should not be a short session topic. Again, we're out of control, we're a minority. If we reach across the aisle, we've got to work with people and find some compromises and do the best job we can. And the cap part is the big issue. That's the big issue on the whole thing. I noticed that the Dems right now are, in some cases, we're calling it cap and invest rather than cap and trade. You know, they're trying to change the words on it. We've seen that at the national level on it. Change what we call it. So climate change, you know, something else. Change the names on things and maybe people will think differently about it. So it's going to be hard. There's no doubt about it.
Cap and trade is nothing more than collect taxes and distribute wealth. Plain and simple. State still thinks they're short money. They still got curves to reconcile. We don't think they spend enough on school districts. Cap and trade in any state or any nation is nothing more than redistributing the wealth. And in particular, with the industries, businesses in Central and Eastern Oregon, we don't have the luxury. We're not all based in an office building with electric heat, electric utilities, drive our electric cars around town because they're only 5 miles away from where we work, where we need. don't have all the long distance mass transit, speaking of that, the whole discussion about what we do in mass transit now as well. None of that is really going to have any beneficial effects on Central Oregon.
No.
And within limits, certain little localities might benefit from it, but where is that really? Take out in the trade, the cap is fine, there is no trade, simply is taking money from one hand, giving it to the other, and putting it where bureaucrats can't just use it. That is not useful Central and Eastern Oregon in any respectable word. For one, they don't have a pollution trouble out there. Honestly, if they're guilty and they go to bed each night feeling guilty about who they are and the way they lead their lives in cities, all the pollution, and carbon dioxide pollution and production, that's fine. But out here, we don't notice it. It's done very well. You don't see the smokestacks anymore. What you see coming out of business is steam. What are they going to do to all the big business, concrete business on the interstate between here and Baker? What's going to do to all of the agricultural industry, the refrigeration, you name it? We're an energy dependent economy. You can't penalize one part of it because the other part doesn't seem to use it, doesn't need it, to feel like they can do that. So, big line in the sand for good.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. Cap and trade, cap and invest, cap and whatever you want to call it. I used to have an old saying, you take a skunk and you wrap it in a bins and breast, it's still a skunk. I don't care what you call it, this is a bad bill. We are not going to be able to survive in rural Oregon if this bill were passed. Some of the options are try to make it better. It does not appear at this point in time that the majority party is willing to discuss with the minority party how that's going to lay out, what it's going to consist of. Last session, there were 123 amendments offered on House Bill 2020, and most of them were ignored and not adopted by the majority party. One of those amendments was referred to the voters. So I would welcome this bill to go to the voters. Once the voters decide on this in an initiative process, I think that's fine. Let's do that, and let's not try to do this legislatively. Let's let the voters decide on this because this is a huge issue. This is an $800 million tax of to bring money in, and the impact to rural Oregon, the impact to agriculture and forestry are devastating. We are a business that has to move, and we don't have the luxury of mass transit. We don't have the luxury of electrification of the grid. We don't have it out in Eastern Oregon. Our farmers, I spoke 5 times last year in session, during the session on demonstrations about this bill. The most important one is in 2015, we passed a bill that was a low carbon fuel standard. So we reduced our carbon footprint. There's a farmer. The farmers have done everything they can. On a prominent farmer north of Vail, the only thing I can do to reduce the carbon footprint in Oregon any further is to move to Idaho. Thank you.
Next, Scott. Judge.
We've been discussing travel issues within the district committee, and we asked all to share that. We should stand against the minus 50 tax. We propose and discuss the legislation.
The miles driven tax, as I understand it, the Oracle program, and there's more than just the miles driven component of that. There's the miles per gallon component. There's the electrification component. If you're not paying road tax, if you're not stopping at the pump and paying any road tax when you're using the road, then you probably got to pay something for the road. But the road tax in itself, all set by itself, Your Honor, no, I don't. There's a whole comprehensive package that needs to be looked at. And people's got to think that if you're going to use the road, you got to pay. But I don't think it's one group should be subsidizing another group. But it's a comprehensive thing. The road tax, the electrification tax, the registration tax, all of those have to offset. We can't be double and triple dipping on people. We have to be fair and equitable.
So the answer is no. It is complex, and it's just like we talked about, so there are more issues than just one. And I'm gonna stand up against it. As it says, there's just no way with what they proposed to do in the past, but actually.
In short, yeah, the answer is no. How are you gonna implement this? Is it ever gonna be fair? How many miles of road, how many lane miles of road are there per capita in the counties, per person? Who uses each of those the most? And it would just be a nightmare. And I think sales tax in this state would be difficult. And you've got cap tax, cap includes one tax. But, they may as well just put sales tax in, like they were in state down. They chose not to do it, I guess maybe it's political very well. But, so I drive, that's not me, Ford Excursion, I've got out there, it's got 260,000 miles on it. I put it in one of those, I've got 3 other vehicles, you need 30 miles each way to work and shit. Lucky enough to live in the city with your electric car or public transportation and 2 miles away to work, walk, that's great. Europe does it, but we're not in Europe. I want to come to Europe. They've got to figure out some other way to spread things out. Penalizing people who depend on road miles.
Congratulations on getting the new morning. Can you tell us what is holding back rural Oregon's economic prosperity? And what should you say on this day?
We're back. The U.S. Constitution was based on limited government. Over 240 plus years, government has crept in, grown quietly, nobody's paying attention. And now you've got every manner of regulation over every aspect of the economy. Being a doctor, my industry is, I think, the most regulated industry in the country, let alone in the state. It is one of my pet peeves. I've got my list of things I'm going to do, if you want, if you will, in my first 100 days. Being in the minority, in the legislature, how much this can go very far. There are issues. You have to try to practice, you have to try to be in this in the state. Number of boards I have to deal with, the number of bureaucrats I have to deal with. Are you aware that I cannot bill or gain healthcare services to an insurance company without being independently credentialed by that insurance company? I've got a license to practice medicine in the state board. Why can't I bill every insurance company? If the state has deemed me good enough to practice medicine and be involved in life and death decisions with people, now why should every insurance company be able to put me through the same record? So, and you can imagine how many insurance companies there are. Being in urgent care, we take people from everywhere. We take insurances out of state. We have to go credential with them, or we take their non-network payments and just walk away with them. It's not just credentialing. Then the insurance company decides whether they like me or not. They decide what my pay rate is going to be, and it's different from the next guy, and it's different from the next guy. There's so many hands involved just in healthcare. I can imagine what it is in banking, although most bankers aren't trying to collect payment for every person that walks through the door. Imagine if you had to do that as a bank, every teller in that bank couldn't take care of a person before they walk in until you had those contracts. So the immensity of bureaucracy borders is understandable and honest.
Well, see, one thing we could all do, we put a gate, so everybody from Multnomah County, Clackamas County, Washington County, and Lane County, wants to recreate on each side, they have to pay a fee to come see us. It's, this is the urban rural divide, we don't want this thing. If I could close, yes, what would I do if I could? I'd close down those counties completely on those kinds of issues, so we have equal pace. So the idea behind that is, how come Oregon doesn't go for an electoral college in Oregon? Have our own electoral college, so that people on this side, central and eastern side of Oregon, have an equal say in what goes on. This is why we're controlled now by the populous counties. Now we'll allow a ballot. So there's no easy answer there, but we do need to keep working on it. Everybody's got a hand in the cookie jar. And my instinct, and right back to that again, we need people coming over here to recreate. We don't want to close it off. We're not talking about they'll come to Eastern Oregon or they'll come to work and use government. But, it's just it's a complex thing. As long as everybody has one vote, the population counties are going to rule the rest of the And that's what we have to get to, and we just gotta keep talking about it and doing the best we can. And we do need to get more people on the issue side to vote, because we are not getting everybody to the ballot when issues do come up. And, in the population areas, if you look at it equally, we can still out vote percentage wise, we just don't get to the ballot. Thank you for that question. I believe the major factor that limits economic development in rural and eastern Oregon is land use planning. It's one size fits all mentality of this is what it's going to be, and you can't do anything. A week ago, the Arts and River put a story in the paper. Nearly 50% of the workforce in Nottingham County lives in Idaho because there's no good affordable housing in Oregon. We're not capturing people, and that's not just Nottingham County. By having a one-size-fits-all mentality, we cannot grow, we can't have affordable housing, and we can't have the land developed for industrial and commercial purposes. We try to say, well, if we don't want to have any more sprawl, we have to go vertical. Well, vertical doesn't work well. I made a statement, and I really made a lot of people thinking a couple of weeks ago at the leadership forum. I said, it's a matter of perception. People in Western Oregon and urban cities think they're helping us. We in the rural folk think they have a foot to our throat, and we can't survive. We have to be able to loosen those up and allow more flexibility for local folks. Senate Bill 100 is a great bill, and I'm not here to bash the bill. It's a great thing because I don't believe that we're not making any more great farm ground, and it needs to stay farm ground. But we have gone way too far. We've got to open that up and allow rural or the local folks much more authority in that decision process. Thank you.
Thank you for being willing to stick your neck out and being involved in elections. Please explain how you feel about working with the Republican Party and encouraging citizens to be involved, to grow, and to help build a bench of potential candidates for future elections.
Well, thank you for that question, Commissioner. I currently serve as the House Republican Whip. Some of that goal is to do more policy stuff. Some of that goal is to figure out how to get more people involved. Candidate recruiting, educational programs. I think we have an upcoming legislative day week. We, the House Republican Office, have scheduled a training session for candidates, potential candidates. So you think you might want to be in the legislature, come by, we'll tell you all about it, tell you how it works. Now, you don't want to tell the whole story because it will scare the hell out of us, excuse the language. So, but it's an educational process. I mean, we have to be better represented in the ballot, we have to be better represented as candidates, and we have to get our message out there on the ground.
Well, I'm a conservative, but I know not all of you are on the same side. We represent a lot of people throughout the district. What I said to Saturday and John Day was that what the conservatives had a problem with is that there are 10 issues, and the candidate doesn't like 2 of them. The conservatives won't vote for it. They don't want to fight for it and try to train him on the other 2. The Democrats do a really good job. If they've got somebody who has 10 issues, 2 of them, they want in office and they work at it. And so that's really important to get out there and get people motivated. I talked earlier about town halls. Well, town halls not only for conservatives, but also for the Democratic side. Your senator represents everybody. You've got to hear the issues. So I need to be there. And those kinds of things will help motivate people to get out and vote, which I think is the basis of your question. It's just so important. I go to my Republican Central Committee. I go to the Democratic Committee in Wasco County. Whenever let me in, they're very tight about not letting me come there. But I do try to get in and talk to them to find out what their issues really are. So when it comes down to it, we're all members of the same planet, the same town, and we have to work together in the same counties throughout Eastern Oregon and Central Oregon. So getting out there and just getting people involved is really important. You are all really involved, and I told them on Saturday, we need to find 3 more people and get them involved with you as well. Let's work on those issues. I believe there is a silent, I don't want to call it majority or minority, there is a silent constituency out there that are just not active, too busy working, too busy making ends meet, taking care of themselves, doing what needs to be done. And a lot of those people don't get out the vote. Oregon's got to vote by mail, so I don't quite understand why the turnout isn't better. I don't know what the numbers are, that's all fine. You have this silent constituency. You saw that in Brexit. My wife and I were driving to Montana for our weekly fishing vacation every year when Brexit went through. I was driving in the RV and I told my wife, I said, you watch. That's exactly what's going to happen in the election this fall here with Trump. And sure enough, it happened. You really just have to get people, you got to energize them. Conservatives, and maybe we have some not so conservative people here on the panel. I don't know what politics are, it's not here. But Democrats and liberals and progressives, by nature, are much more activist than conservatives are. And you really just need to go convince the conservatives and the business people and the quiet ones. They just don't get up and get evangelical about things. They don't have to get that way, but they have to be involved. They don't want to see their quality of life, their way of life, their economy, and their culture, their counties go in the toilet like it continues to do. I think a lot of that is because people don't get up and vote until they see a threat themselves. Frankly, most people that are working day to day, their life's going on, and they just don't think they're missing out on much. It's what they do, it's who they are. People sitting around that aren't doing much, they're totally dependent on the system, that get incensed at the first little indication that you might not continue their rate trend. I think that is how you get more people on the conservative side to participate. We've got to show it to them really what's happening. Start off with the cap.
Thank you, I'm really enjoying hearing all of this. Changing the tempo a little. What are the Second Amendment constitutional rights, gun ownership, and the state's role and right to assert itself with policies that infringe on this right?
Well, that is, that's just Saturday, I left mine in the car. That's where I'm at, I'm for the Second Amendment. We're seeing that right eroded in little ways, it's right down the line, and there's more coming in this short session, by the way. There's going to be some fighting going on there again, whether we can actually get it, that'll be very interesting. Second Amendment is something I'm going to fight for. State by state, going after little pieces of it, taking our right to bear arms away from us, that's not correct. They can change it, just maybe different rules for how to sell ammunition, how to sell posts, whatever they're going to come up with next. We'll just keep limiting our ability to carry a weapon. If we wish to be trained properly. Mr. Wilson down there in Texas, I'm a security person with my church in the Dallas, Oregon, about 8 or 9 of us in the church, 2 different services, and I have the second service. So I'm very familiar with it. I believe in training. People need to be trained, but we've got to keep putting our foot out there about promoting the Second Amendment and what it means to the average citizen. You can't be the only one that's not armed. The bad people are going to be armed whether you have that ability or not. That's just the way it's going to be. And your major politicians all have security people walking around them fully loaded. So how can that be when they're fighting against the Second Amendment, some of those folks? Yet they've got those kinds of folks around them that, are trained security guards protecting them. There's just no logic to a lot of this. That's all I got. I strongly support and in strong favor of the Second Amendment, and I will not entertain any erosion of those for my Florida environment. I do have a concealed carry permit, and I believe that's a right. And I would not have any contraction from that for a weekend of it. I can sit there and talk with them a minute and a half about how terrible it is, but I'm not going.
I won't waste much of your time either, so I guess all 3 of us are concealed carry permit holders. I'm one of the rare people that actually got one in California, and I've been trying to get that. So it's there just is no negotiation. It's just the erosion of Second Amendment rights, who we are as Americans. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. And we've got a big people problem in this country that transcends a lot of things besides the Second Amendment. That's where the effort needs to go. Plain and simple. Thank you. I just wanted to say that, and thank you for your willingness to serve and the service you've done in service. I appreciate that. Question. What would be your short-term goal if you keep tenure? Your long-term goal, make your reform. If that is legislative nature, how would you get that done? Okay. Thank you. Short-term goal. Try to make it through the short session without a cap and trade bill. And long-term goal, continue what some of the efforts I started in the last long session, and that's chipping away at the land use restrictions in the project. It's more authority to make it. I believe that's the key. I mean, I participated in the economic opportunity analysis, do all that land work, but if you don't have the land to do it, you're wasting your time. So we need to make some shifts in that armor and give local units more authority. That would be a long-term goal. And it's a bipartisan, it's not a party issue. When I passed my last bill through the House, I had 36 Democrats in support of that measure, which was a little tough at times, but it was the right thing to took a lot of work. So I told you I have my list. Which one I would think would have the most likelihood of going through? Credentialing, and I already explained that one. Why should it be so difficult for a doctor to go work where they want to and serve people? I know rural Oregon, rural America is having a huge issue with finding physicians that will go out to rural areas or move out to them. The big issue is the move. And once you get there, if they like the lifestyle, they'll stay. You can encourage them, you can incentivize them. But just the hassle of picking up and moving from one area to another is almost unbearable. That would be very simple. See, you may remember the legislation. At some point, the state was supposed to take over credentialing of all physicians, and it just kind of died and went away. I don't know what happened. All of us were cheering. Hallelujah. We don't have to do all the insurance companies anymore. It's one centralized credentialing process, and then it did fizzle out and something part of that one. Being in healthcare, there are a lot of ways to improve our health plan, make it more responsible, more accountable. The biggest thing is, are you aware that you live out here in Eastern Oregon, you have Oregon Health Plan, which is not the base you shouldn't have it, what the program's done, but if a person has that, if they come to Central Oregon to visit a family member, and they're sick, they can't walk into my urgent care and be seen. You know what the answer to that is? You have to go to the emergency department. That is written in, that is how the state has implemented Oregon Health Plan. For a lot of good reasons, they put it into a managed care structure, but there's a lot of repercussions about that. That doesn't work. That's a huge long-term goal with the Democratic majority. I don't think we're going to see a lot of change on that level. They love the program, but healthcare costs just not through the ceiling. You can bet that's going to be my specialty in the legislature. I can track healthcare when health and human services and Medicaid spending in the state is somewhere between 27 to 40%, depending on how you slice it, dice it, the part of the budget comes out of. That's a big piece to chew off. That's where I'm going.
Well, we all have a lot of similar answers to a lot of similar questions, just different personalities on how we'll react to it. I served a lot of time on economic development issues. I was appointed by group governments, actually, during my 8 years as a county commissioner to regional solutions. It's who Augustine was there at the beginning, just how to get back, and never got hate. So I've worked on that area. I think short term, I'd like to see some strengthening to help the Central and Eastern Oregon more on economic development. I was the chair of McCog, Mid-Columbia Council of Governments, so I'm for Mid-Columbia Economic Development District, for their boards. So I've had a lot of experience that way. That's a big one right there. Licensing, permits, you know, I've spent a lot of time on planning commissions, 4 years on actual commission, but when you're with the county, when you're with the board commission, when you're with the city now, we're dealing with the planning commission all the time. Well, it's great. All these rules come down from sales and whatnot, and then we have to deal with it. And we don't have a lot of control. And it makes it very hard, and it's such an expertise anymore, just for people hiring planning to get the job done. And then, you know, salaries and all the rest of it, we have to pay. So those are a couple of areas I'd really like to work on. I'm not kidding about the long-term goal that I mentioned earlier. It'd be great to have an electoral college in Oregon. So we divided up, and now their county's got just as much equality in their vote, you know, as Multnomah County does. I have to be honest, that's a great, really long-term goal. It probably won't be in my lifetime, but it's something that's worth talking about at bigger conference groups as we go along the way. Healthcare, again, that's a big one out there. PERS is obviously not going to get fixed or even adjusted in another short session here. So those are some long-term goals they have to do, and we've got to keep working on that. Thank you, Dave, for being here. Going to serve. Question about the short session. Short session isn't what I vote, has not turned out to be what I voted for. We have a choice, can we change the way it goes, being counted out, or just do away with it? Well, can we do away on that, you know, poll the room, what they'd like to see, but the way it is currently, with the short session, it was never intended, from everything I've read about the historical documents of how it was first brought about, was not about tackling long-term, big, heavy subjects. It was for fixing things that weren't quite right in the bill they passed in the long session, fixing the budget, making those little tweaks to things. So if I had a magic wand and I could get the majority party to help me out there, you know, which good luck, you know, that's what I'm going to push you for. That we shouldn't be handling those kind of topics. You know, we talked about all the topics and what we want to do, but if the magic wand was there, and we're going to continue with the short session, then we need to follow the rules and or define the rules clearly so everybody gets it, and keep it to those fixes to the budget, et cetera, that we need to do to fix a bill that as it went on, they found out, hey, this is a little bit wrong, let's get that fixed, those kinds of things. I don't know that Oregon's ready for long sessions year after year after year, but it may be we have to go that way because of what's happening in the short sessions where we have to tackle these big topics. So preferably, no, but if that's what we have to do in order to have the time to work on these topics, then I guess we'll have to go that way.
Well, I respectfully disagree with my colleague. I think, I've been quoted as saying more than once, the less amount of time we're in Salem, the less amount of damage we can cause. So I absolutely believe, we should not have a short session. That way, I think the year before the short session, if I heard someone told me correctly, there were 9 special sessions where legislators went in for 3 to 5 days and did stuff. Well, hopefully what you're doing is emergency board stuff, fixing budget stuff, here in town. More time we're in town, the more mischief we can cause. So I would just, you know, admit.
Do you want a full-time legislature or do you want a part-time legislature? I've already heard horror stories. Basically, once you're in this role, it's a 2-year full-time obligation. You may not be in session, but you're down there all the time, fundraising, working on committees, putting together pieces of whatever it is that, you know, legislature and the governor and all the big government people down there think that ought to be done. So you're trying to dig out a piece of paper, and I know it's out there, but it's on a shot everybody. Well, that's what shouldn't shock you, but that's true in our budget. Since 1980 at the low end, and last year, up here, 1980, it was a barely $10 billion budget. Now it's an $82 billion budget. We're already a full-time legislature. If you're talking about that kind of money and that kind of growth. So tell us what you need, what you want, what you expect of it. I don't think
there's obviously full-time, and plenty of states that already do that. I agree. Too much time down there is too much time to make mistakes and screw things up for us. Limited government and get in, get out. But that's not what everybody wants to do in training.
Being a Republicans, my condolences to Member Wins. On the rural urban divide is, they don't understand that we're a very wide state. You guys travel this, they don't. That's always been the problem. And as far as the worst thing, as far as I can see, cap and trade, look cap, they close us off at potential growth. And then trade with no that much. For those who do succeed. And when you succeed, you have to create jobs. Well, cap and trade, this is a sickening term to begin with. As an example, you all mentioned the one for another, Asheville Smith. Okay, first year, on it says first year. Their increase in tax increase will be $11 million. That will escalate for the next 12 years to the point where no business can succeed. So none of this is good. So my question basically is, how are you going to attempt to solve it? Don't fight.
Well, by continuing to send people out there that are listening to folks like you and taking those ideas. Our legislator is an expert on getting to that. It's business owners who are. The major business owners, the small business owners. I was a small business owner for 24 years in the financial service industry. And the horror stories I would hear from, I think, an oil company, a local oil company in Washington County, Hatton Oil, and they do business all over Oregon, actually. At least the northern and eastern side. The regulations being put on them, currently, there are enough regulations out there. Why are we making more rules and more laws? And so that's where you've got to be. That's where you've got to fight. What are you going to try to do? Are you going to try to get involved in those discussions? Do the best you can to make some changes, to give them some ideas. You may have to come over this way a little bit in order to figure out how to get them to come with you. But, you know, you can't give it up either. You've got to stay there, you've got to stay firm, but you do need the information from the businesses out there on exactly, not in general, why is this bad? We're all there. We've read those things, those documents. But we need specifics, and we need to pound the legislature with those specifics. And more importantly, we need to pound the populace out there that's reading the newspapers, listening to the radio, and get them to really understand what it's really all about. But we're not just trying to make this rosy world by having all these wonderful new taxes, and that's what they are, they're taxes. It's just costing us more and more and more to operate, and fuel costs in the Eastern Oregon just to do business on any kind of level. It's just a very, very hard thing. And you've got to get the word out, you just have to keep getting that information on the ground. And I think we've got 3 people here that understand that.
I've already mentioned cap and trade. It really is nothing more than just redistribution. And there are people in this world who feel guilty for the fact that they're on this earth, that they were born, that we're humans, that we dare trample on a little purple flower I was being educated on yesterday up in Baker County around rodeo grounds in Ames. If I got thrown in jail for accidentally mowing the parking area. So it comes down to that. We've got, it's not just the spotted owl now, it's the barred owl, which is running the spotted owl out, now shooting the barred owl to spare the spotted owl. You've got horses running wild on the range and nobody's doing their job. Barred owl, managing them, if you will. But cap and trade, we discussed it earlier, you know, my approach to this, which is, it really is just wealth redistribution. And it's a limitation on growth and on the industry. And as far as the pollution standards go, it all starts in California, and that's the problem, is that all that trickles up in here to Oregon. But the United States as a whole has made just dramatic strides in lowering pollution nationwide. The problem is the rest of the world's not keeping up. The Paris Climate Accord, which Trump has appropriately tossed out and said, look, hey, we're doing a good job, and the rest of you catch up to us and maybe we'll talk. So, whatever, it doesn't like the Second Amendment.
It's dead on sorrow. Thank you for the question, Commissioner. I learned a new word last session, and I use it regularly, imperceptible. That's the impact of Oregon's CO2 emissions on the global climate. Imperceptible. However, if we reduce that, it's extremely significant on the economic development issue. I spoke 5 times during the session in remonstrance to the floor of the House, on the floor of the House, if China took over the concrete production, during my speech, 417,000 metric tons of carbon, additional carbon a year into the atmosphere. You need to not look at it through a little tiny system and here's Oregon. You need to look at it better. And I think the way to do that is to understand the issue, educate yourself, and beat that drum. I mean, we have to continue to do it. We called for and raised all kinds of habits about not having a field hearing, public hearing on cap and trade. So they finally did a call in Baker when you had the freeway closed because of a snowstorm. We still had 300 people show up. A fact that I've used many, many times. I mean, you know, we have to continue to talk about the impact of the decision. One of the biggest things I think of the legislature that I deal with is trying to educate folks on the impact of their decision. Unintended consequences of a decision made in Salem on rural Oregon, whether it's southern Oregon or eastern Oregon. They're significant. And we have to be able to sit there and explain those issues and try to work through a way to get to carve them out and not. Thank you.
So, thank you. I admire that each of you have done it. Probably the most folks on this side didn't do it just because, wow. I wish, well. One of the things by being last, or towards the end here, is that we can hear your answers and we can also see maybe gaps. And all of you have clearly explained to me cap and trade, or at least your view on it. But the question that has been posed that you haven't really dealt with, and this is a drill down, put you on the spot question, is how will you approach being a super minority status member and get something done? And I'll tell you quite frankly, it's a tough thing. When I was asked to run, well, actually, Rep. Finley was there, I said that being a super minority member, the constituents expect you to do stuff. And we commissioners expect you to do stuff. Now, I don't know, there's a number of other reasons, I have a wife for this, but truthfully, putting you on the spot. Now, don't tell me about cap and trade, I got all of that. And don't tell me about health care, I got all of that. But how in the heck, as a super minority member of the House, or excuse me, Senate, will you get something done? Baker County.
Thank you, Commissioner. That was a fair question. I will say, as a member of the minority, it is not fun. There's a lot of times, I had the Speaker of the House tell me at the time I was talking about legislation, we do not need your vote and we do not care. We are going to do this. Have a nice day. That's kind of depressing. I will tell you, as a member of the super minority, I passed more bills than any other member of the House Republican office. I got bipartisan support on there. And to pass a bill, you gotta be bipartisan. And to do that, we just covered it. You gotta work hard at it. You gotta be able to get your points of view across. You gotta be able to make the opposition or the other party understand those issues. And you gotta work with it. You just don't cross your arms and give them a scowl and a dirty look. You just work hard at it. And I absolutely understand what you're talking about when you talk about your wife's support. I have mine there, though, mother giving a smile and but it's a lot of work to do. But you know, it's something that the ends justify the means. You get some bills passed, and I did. And it's not a lot of fun, but
it's gratifying at times.
Yeah, I'm educated. I'm an educator. No, I'm not a professor in the university, but I'm a physician, and that is my entire career is one by one, every patient. We usually behind closed doors, once in a while there's group setting, or somebody catches me in the grocery store, or on the air on radio, and people are, bold enough to bring up their question with some pseudo name, so the neighbor doesn't know who they are while they're talking on radio. You need to educate, and the way I operate is the data doesn't lie. People lie about the data. Famous saying from radio host who's no longer with us, not my dad. And it's the way I operate. There is a way to present the data and present the upside to them. So back into healthcare is where I'm going to start. Even the liberals in the Oregon Health Plan, Medicaid advocates will not be able to disagree with what I'm going to present to them, which is wasting good money, which can be spent on the people better. There are, and in the handout, I've left you plenty of little tidbits about where I came from, and some of the topics I find interesting that the people just don't stop and think about. And there's people of them in there, actually a lot better than healthcare. And again, it's going to be my strong suit, but when it's fully half the budget, it's not a strong suit. And I would think a lot of people won't have that ability to really drill down into that. But how do you get people to go with whatever legislation is that I would be proposing? I'm going to pick it, you got to pick your battles. And I'm going to focus on things that nobody can argue about the data. What they have been doing is going along on emotion and party politics, really not looking at what the impact even is to them. If they want more of their people served the way they want them to be served, you got to listen.
Actually, I have touched on this a little bit as we've gone through here, a politician who has his ideas carved in granite, it's not different requirement, or a super majority, or super orders. So you can go down there with a lot of great ideas and whatnot, but reality is, you do your studies and research on both sides of the issue, you know you're gonna have one heck of a time even getting your foot in the door. My lawsuit for my radio career, my insurance career, AOC, what a training ground for working with people on both sides of the aisle. And that's not the AOC out of New York, it's giving this trouble. The Association of Oregon Counties, I had to take my pet off at church here the other day, so I had my AOC going on. How did so anyway, I had a really, besides the AOC, Association of Oregon Counties, training with working with people on both sides of the aisle, because you never even really thought about who was Republican, who was Democrat, and it's committee. So we have a lot of things done. And jointly, you want to spoke to the legislature on topics if you were chair of the committee. So this is something we do. Good training in a second area was Representative John Huff, who's now with the USDA, who's helping with the economic bonuses that are coming out right now in Mount County. He had a great record of working across the aisle. He has a blueprint. We are very good, close personal friends. He was in broadcasting as well way back, so we built a relationship many years ago. That is a fellow that I'm going to be looking to more and more in this situation. Where the doors are, what are the hot buttons on the other side of an issue? This is a gentleman who knows that getting for 10 years, he was one of the most successful representatives in the last decade in that position, and that's why he's in the position he is now with the USDA. So there are people you can call on. I'm not going to knock on doors. I'm not going to see people. And they need to come in and let them tell you what their views are too. You can't just go in and jump on people. This is my point of view. That's not going to get very far.
Yes, it's me. So, Commissioner here mentioned that sometimes there's, this is what you guys are talking about, maybe you skip over some topic. This is a topic that hasn't ever been brought up since I've been a commissioner for state legislators. I hear about it constantly in our county. Our tax system is a mess. The property taxes are unfair. Income taxes are unfair. The taxing system sometimes is used as a social tool. And I heard the word fair and equitable from Representative Henry a little bit ago. And I'd like to know your observations of the tax system for Oregon and what you would think would work better and more fair and equitable to the people of Oregon.
I'm a true believer everybody ought to have some skin in the game. And I don't buy this mantra and procedure that's used right now that there's a lot of people that don't contribute at all. And all of a sudden there's a big cliff that's happened in healthcare financing and Obamacare and the healthcare exchanges. They don't have any skin in the game, and all of a sudden they have a whole bunch of skin in the game, and so they don't work any harder because they don't want to hit that limit and have to lose on their benefit. So I'm a true believer, and I haven't really thought about standing up in front of a crowd like this or a panel like this and stating this, but I'm very easy at thinking on this lying on my feet. And in a certain way, I've always felt like a true sales tax is the only way to equitably distribute taxation around a community. But as it is in Oregon, we won't call it that. We've got the cap now, which is the first step. But when you solely depend on tax revenues coming from income taxes, business taxes, you've got a cap coming from property taxes, even those not paying tax are going to feel it, they just don't know. They don't see it, they don't taste it, they don't have it in their hands. There are ways for a government, even through healthcare, to give the people the money that they're going to have to pay for co-insurance and co-pay when they walk in the doctor's office, but at least make them pull the card out of their pocket and use it. You give them the money, they can turn around, the end result is the same. But there's a human behavior, which is if you have to pull it out of your pocket, see it go from your hand to somebody else, you think a little bit differently about your actions. And that's what you don't see in our taxation structure in the state. It's all very quiet. Insurance premiums are the same thing. People are just unaware of the fact they're paying $12,000 a year in insurance premiums.
That is a good question. I had the pleasure of listening to a county assessor one day addressing a group of rotarians. And they were asking something very similar to that. And she said to them, quit passing stuff. That's how you lower your taxes in your own county. Because you have a population base, you have services that you need, you have districts. Wasco County has 9 districts just in the urban area. And if we keep passing this and that and the other thing, and one reports all going, and they all want more money, they're all wanting increases. The formulas are there, and we created them. So somehow we need to work on how you do that. I'm not an accountant, I'm not a millennial numbers guy, which is where you're talking about, how to create those formulas and whatnot. But it is complex. It has a lot to do with the kinds of services we want in our counties and the kinds of homes that are there. Wasco County, for example, is one of the highest property tax rates in the state. We're right up there with Lake Oswego. What is going on? Well, we have a lot of really nice districts in our area, and that's where the taxes keep piling up. So somehow we have to get a handle on that. As far as changing the formulas, that's going to take a lot more study, whatnot, and certainly a lot of time.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that question. Great question. We in Oregon do not have a tax problem. We don't have a revenue problem. We have a tremendous spending problem. We raised $2.6 billion with the B dollars more than we were supposed to raise last biennium. The kicker was 1.7 on the personal side. What you don't hear very often, there's $900 million we raised in business and commercial corporate tax that goes into the common school fund. So even in our wildest dreams, and when we developed the budget before this last biennium,
He said, this is what we're gonna make. We're $2.6 billion more. We're overtaxing the crap out of people. Excuse the language. What we have to do is fix that. The problem is if we want to start a different tax system, we have zero trust of the voters. People don't trust us because we don't do what we say we're gonna do. When we say we're gonna eliminate this tax, we're gonna do something different. Well, they don't believe you for a second because as soon as you talk, you get the other one going, you're gonna raise the one that you theoretically eliminated that. We have a huge problem. I'm on the revenue committee and we've looked at a lot of different things. There's a one point last spring I had on my desk in the lower corner underneath my calendar pad. There were $8 billion worth of tax increase that the majority party wanted to do. And we worked very hard to not let them do that. We need to become more fair and equitable. We need to be able to look at our neighbors, and I've introduced legislation for the short session that will raise the exemption for the state tax. Because we're losing people, and when you amass any wealth in the state, they're moving out of the state because the estate tax is killing them. We're not equitable in there. So it is a tremendous problem. We just have very little trust in the public to believe we'll do what we're supposed to do.
You're not gonna mention.
I'm a new chair, so.
Being last, almost every question I wanted to ask has already been asked. Expecting, okay, now here we're done. Cap and trade, biggest thing for our county, not your county, is residential real estate or land use planning. So I'm just gonna pass it on to Larry.
I'll make it really simple. And I think mentioned it, but hopefully Chair Wendy is selected. There's 9 counties in this group. There is diversity, and I think personally one of the biggest problems to growth. And, I don't want it looking like the Idaho side where it's just uncontrolled. They have no statewide planning, which maybe that's better than what we have. But maybe a happy medium. I believe that I'd like to know what your stand is on looking at how would you tackle LCDs or stranglehold on control. Get more of a, whether it's a region, and even in our region, we're different here than we are in Baker. We're different than in the Dallas because of the states we're sitting next to or location, whatever. But how would you take that on? And I'd like to know first if you're for taking it on and more regionalized or county-wise, or we have some local control. Because I really do believe we know what's best for our areas. And so, how would you tackle LCDs?
Just the way I did last time. I would go back to that effort to providing more local control and drive it home. I mean, I can't tell you how many bills came in the legislature last session that were dealing with little snippets of that to give more control. We passed in a bill, or House Bill 2001, which allowed urbanization, more density analysis in R1 zone. And there was Senate Bill 2, which came out and allowed counties, 9 or 10 counties in Eastern Oregon to designate 50 acres of industrial ground outside. Those were all indicators that our land use plan system is broken. When we have all of these little things out there, well, we need to get a group together, and it's got to be pretty darn high level group and work on that to get more local control. We have to let the county, and you're right, it's different in Mount County than it is in Grant County, then it's different in Jefferson County. I mean, someone told me that in Wasco County, they've spent 20 years trying to increase urban growth down in Irvine. I mean, holy smoke, how silly is that? So we have to get more local control.
That's the bottom line.
I'll touch on that on another question a little bit, we have to participate, we have to be talking not to just the legislators, but to the agencies and whatnot. We have to be talking to the lobbyists as well. There have been a few changes which have been good. I'm talking about the 50 acres and so forth, some density changes that have gone on in the last year or so, which helps a little bit, but still, when you see one county, you see one county. And so it doesn't, one size does not always fit all. We need to be able to take those rules that are passed down, which they, and they're documented right, and says we should do this, and we should do that. That'll help fix things. And we need to be able to have a period of time to answer right back and say, it sounds pretty good, but here, you mentioned Wasco County, they deal with the feds on the Columbia Gorge Commission. That's the problem that's happening with expanding urban growth boundary. So there's other horses at the top at the same time. So all you do is just keep going after permits, all the rest of it that go along with that. It's just been so hard, not only on communities, on county, but on businesses themselves and those landowners who are trying to expand, maybe take on another parcel of ground, etc. There's just too many rules. And what the legislature loves to do is just make more rules. So now we need to slow that down.
I don't have a whole lot of experience at all in land planning, but it's all fairly simple to me, which is with every entity underneath the state, that authority that the state used to have for somebody who didn't claim that authority, the state took it. Once you've got a county, which is always that there, once you've got a city, once you've got a development area, if that organization or that entity now is in control of local issues, that authority from the state ought to move down to that lower entity who's on the ground in that area. There may be a few things at the state level that everybody agrees that we shouldn't do, but by and large, what does Multnomah County know about Baker County? Exactly. And out here, we've got plenty of land, not enough opportunity for growth. They've already expanded over every square inch of what they've got, and they feel guilty about it. They don't have the open space left, and now they want to go upwards, and you don't think we're smart enough to have watched what they did ruin their lifestyle, and afraid, I guess they're afraid we're going to do the same thing they did. Then they must feel guilty about the fact that they didn't keep us from doing it. It's like forest land planning. There's been a lot of mistakes made over the last 100 years with the way we've gotten where we are. Fine, learn from it, move on, do better, which we've done, but all the powers that be in the urban areas think that we made a mistake once 100 years ago, you continue to make this one mistake with opportunity away from you start.
Good, thank you. So now we have commissioners on the phone. And I'm going to start with Deschutes County. Commissioner Tony DeBone, you have a question?
No, just thank you very much for being involved in this process. No questions at this time.
Thank you. Grant County, Commissioner Sam Palmer.
Thank you. No questions.
Jefferson County, Commissioner Forty. Hearing none. Lake County, Commissioner Brad Winters.
No, my question's already been asked by somebody else, thank you.
Commissioner Williams,
No questions at this time.
Commissioner Albertson.
I have one short one.
Perfect.
What are you guys gonna do about the government overreach into our counties? Like, fish and wildlife and land use planning, or the DEQ into controlling our water? Crickets?
Thank you, Commissioner. Great question. I believe, and I have to go back and look at the statutory authority of these agencies. I believe that ODF&W has been overreach, requires that they have involvement in every land use decision in the local level. I mean, we gotta go back and look. They have no authority. That's not their mission. That's not their role.
And we gotta look at why they're doing that and stop that. I mean, in all areas, but I hope that every county that's represented in this district has written a letter to DEQ and stating their thoughts on their water graph that's there is no authority for that to occur. We have to assert that they do not have that ability to do that. One thing I will say as a legislator that I've learned, one of the only perks about this job, if you're in a hearing and if you make a disturbing comment about an agency, you can bet the next day that director is going to be in your office and you get some good one-on-one time. And I've got a lot of one-on-one time with some of those agencies, and it's kind of fun. So I think the thing is, we just have to make sure that they're not overstepping their authority. That's just not acceptable.
I've had that same conversation a few times with heads of agencies. A big way to go about working on some of those issues about overreach within our counties from the state agencies are you folks sitting right here. Commissioners being involved and making sure that your legislators understand exactly where you're coming from and the overreach that's occurring, when it's occurring. And then when you get in, you pointed that out correctly. Is that what they're really supposed to be doing at that agency? Or are they just watching out for their own vested interest? So it's all very important, but it starts right at the county level with you folks, making sure that we understand. Because you get down to Salem, you get in this big ball down there sometimes, and when we have to be reaching out to you, you need to be reaching out to us as well. It's a big circle that we need to know what to do with boots on the ground. And that's where the county commissions are at. So the more help you can give to those that are on the floor, the better it's going to be.
Judges, and we have a few here. No offense and all due respect, but I think the judiciary has inserted themselves into policy and legislation and jurisdiction way above and beyond where they ever should have allowed to go. They're lawyers. No offense to lawyers, I'm a doctor, so you kind of know where I stand on that one, but lawyers will argue anything to prove their point. They really don't care about this side of the world. And on these issues with land planning, the first thing that happens when there's controversy is an injunction filed. Right? Somebody in the public or in an agency, somebody thinks somebody's done something they shouldn't do, and the first thing to do is go to a judge and get an injunction to stop it. And it's not been in court forever. That's how we got spotted out. The spotted owl was not handed down, and the repercussions of that largely didn't come from the legislation of the people, it came from the court system. Now, people are supposed to be represented in the court system, and I probably offended every judge, but that's not my intent. But I think what I'm trying to say is it has to go back to the people who it affects. It has to go back to more local decision making, local authority, and these two are much more eloquent about land use issues and spending a lot more time into it. I have got a lot of learning to do on that one. But as I see it, I think we've also got to rein in the judiciary and get them out of the things that ought to be done legislatively to the people to go control, not just in one judge in some certain court, way away from wherever we are, because it happens to be very late. So, a very typical answer, and just hit me as I was looking at the other two. So thank you.
Wasco County, Commissioner Hagee?
Yeah, I have a question about enterprise zones. So the question is, what is your thought about how the state and what their role should be related to enterprise zones?
That is a good one for Wasco County, because we've been under enterprise zones for a long, long time. As you may or may not know, if you don't have one in your county, that comes down from the state. They do the rules, etc. The problem on our end is that the counties are the one giving up the taxes. The counties are giving up all kinds of things through the enterprise zone process. The state doesn't have any skin in the game. It's our land, it's our tax base, etc. That is a real big area to be working on. I think it's time, after this many years of the enterprise zone statutes being on the books, I think it's time that that's one area that
really to look at a thorough review on how it's implemented and the cost to the local tax base. Because nobody's giving us money back for 5, 10, or 15 years while that enterprise zone piece is going on through its field. It'll all be great, you know, we all, as we tell the taxpayers all the time, it's all gonna be great when it comes down to it. And then this money's gonna come in. But I know Austin County, all we do is talk that line all the time because we have no control. We have no way to reverse that. And in the meantime, there are tax districts, et cetera, that are suffering because they can see all this money. We can give it away and it needs to come back into the community somehow and quicker than that. So somehow getting the state that they're going to oversee this whole thing, and it's been a good deal. We have a lot of businesses in Washington County that are ancillary to those who come in through the enterprise zone. So it has increased taxes in that way. It's not enough to offset the loss. There has to be some kind of implementation to get the state to have more skin in the game in terms of helping out the individual counties to take on these enterprise zones.
That was on my list of things to start with, and I didn't know if I was qualifying. And I may be somewhat naive in my understanding of this, but why is it that the richest internet companies in the country, in the world, Facebook, Apple, Google, get the tax break? Crying out loud, Mark Zuckerberg's net wealth just went up by $27 billion last month because of what happens with the stock market. Why are we giving him a tax break? Why don't I get one in my net income? It's just the opposite. I get billed for and taxed for everything in my office, my exam table, my, slip lamp. I've got to add up all of my inventory, all of my assets. I get taxed on that every year. Why isn't Apple, Google? And so, with this respect, why don't you give credit for bringing all of them into the state and bringing them into your area and taxing on it after how good it was for us? I think it is the same thing Bryanville. They gave Facebook and Apple huge tax breaks. Enterprise zones up there on the hill above Bryanville. You even know how many jobs Facebook actually created long term? Hundreds of thousands of square feet out there. Maybe 30 people have jobs there. Contractors got lots of work. The county may have gotten some money out of it. The suppliers got lots of work. But the contractors from out of the area, all of that tax rate, and they only put maybe 28 to 30 people into employment all the time across one. I think it's a travesty on the sweetheart kickback deals. I'm sure Apple and Facebook and Google and making nice campaigns for producers. A lot of people get those deals. I don't know. I'm sitting on that side of it, but my attitude is those are the three richest countries or companies in the country. Yeah. Why are they doing that? So awesome.
Thank you. I believe in enterprise zones. I think they're a good economic development tool. However, I believe they need to ensure that the writing of that check is only done by the county, is only done by the account holder. The state of Oregon should not ever write a check on a county checkbook. So one of the tools for economic development is enterprise zones. I've worked with them significantly in Mountaineer County and at the city and the county level. And it's a good thing, but you can't give away the whole show. I mean, if you have increased costs because of development, such as rural fire protection and infrastructure, and some of those road costs, they have to be factored in and carved out of the enterprise zone. But the authority for that has to be designated specifically to the county who is responsible for that activity. And it's not the state. I made a speech in the short session of last year that we, the state, should not be writing checks on county checkbooks. You don't have that authority, you should not do that. And if the county's not there saying, please write this check, you should not pass that. And I believe the same thing is true. Mr. Kramer.
No questions, Mr. Chair.
I couldn't hear. No questions. No questions. Commissioner Ford.
No questions, thank you.
Wheeler County, Doug Morgan.
Well, they're not you.
What's that?
Oh, right, thank you.
No questions. Okay. Mr. Chase?
No question.
Okay, that basically ends the question period. I have one little one, and that is, as a state senator, what would your impact be on the federal government interference, like with the Forest Service, work plans? Would you have any impact in helping with the decisions?
I would certainly hope so. As a retired young employee, I understand the planning process, and the fact that, they have a couple of components that require citizen involvement and cooperator involvement. And I would demand that we would be able to provide that information or that input into their decisions. And we have to be participating in the process throughout. We just can't wait till it's done and go, okay, comments. We gotta be with their knees under the table throughout the entire process, and I would require that they allow that to occur.
Just like with anything else, it's important that we're interacting on a federal level as well as the state. I belong to a community outreach team. Washington County has had one for a number of years, and a different group that goes every year to Washington DC. We're lucky enough to do that a couple of times. We go back there, we call on the Forest Service, the USDA, we go right down the list of anything that can impact financial permits, whatever it might be. A lot of forest land in Washington County, in which we get little or nothing out of it, which timber businesses to go down up and right over the last couple of days. So we've got to interact with the outfit. That's our phone numbers and everything to the town when they have questions. They can be responsive. Building a relationship, again, no different across the aisle, sitting and working with the other legislators. We have to be able to be an open door to work with the agencies, federal government, whatever capacity they may be in, and be ready to do our best. Maybe we won't know that answer when they call us right away, but be willing to do the issue for them and get back with an honest answer. And we get that door going back and forth, it's tremendously helpful. An expert on that, the representative got out, I'm not sure who's name again. It's very good at that particular thing. It's kind of my area as well. I enjoy that aspect of working together with agencies, whether it's state or federal, putting an open door, having an open door, that I can have that contact in my address book and their name pops up. If we've talked before. So that's a big one for you.
Frankly, I think U.S. Forest Service and BLM need to be phased out of most of our land decisions. Would anybody in here say that our forests and our BLM are in better shape now than they were 100 years ago? Federal government jumped in when nobody was paying attention, when the states were very young, didn't have any ability to resist it. Maybe we needed a few national parks. There are some very precious pieces of ground out there that probably didn't need to be protected. But my estimation of growing up in a rural timber dependent community and watching it absolutely be destroyed, financially, economically, on a personal level, the destruction that it caused to families and the upheaval of this election. I remember my colleagues here wouldn't have held out on my lapels, allowed me to work with BLM for 34 years, and we're talking about what are we going to do about these agencies that really have done us all a big disservice in the long run, and I don't see that as we're stuck with them. I don't know if we'll ever get that totally back under local control, but it's why we call it the U.S. Forest Service. All they do on fire now is they spend money. They wait till it's big enough, out of control, and then they can bring in their type 1 commanders. We got one here who's also helped that one out for you. Very proud of his work. It's a lot of work. Fire camp is not a small deal. The problem is that you never get to that point. When I grew up in the logging woods, there was a fire, and we all dropped what we did, all of our equipment over there, put the damn fire out. And then the Forest Service showed up and said, thank you, how much do we owe you? Because of the lawyers and the bureaucrats, just got totally out of control. A lot of people saw an open checkbook. Hey, I'll take my old water truck out there, and while they're not looking, I'm going to drive it off the road and claim it was something to do with Forest Service. I'm going to do the water truck out. That's not the way to go. You can't go out and volunteer and help anymore without being signed up ahead of time.
there any more questions on the phone? Everybody's done, right?
That's from the audience.
Doctor, you have 2 minutes to summarize your position. We'll start with you. You can, whatever feels comfortable with you. You've done well right there, all of you right where you're at, so.
How many counties are in the Senate district? 11. 9, you've got it on Marion and Clackamas, you know, getting voting rights, but, you know, technically there's 11 of you, so. You know, no offense to Marion and Clackamas counties, thank you for being in the district, but, all on the east side, so. I think I've already said enough. You get me more worked up the longer we go here. I mean, there are some things that, yes, you do need to work on both sides of the aisle. Think about it, I'm a doctor. There's no way I've been as successful as I am for 20 years in healthcare. I can't sit down in front of one person or a group or a community and listen to all sides, understand it on a personal as well as a political level, the implications of what I do, what I can say, what I can't say, what bureaucracy and what state agency I have to deal with. But I'm not a legislator. I shouldn't say that. I'm not a bureaucrat type. Spent my life in the private sector, and I think it's high time that a lot more of our legislature reflect the communities from where those people come from, reflect the business owners, reflect the people who have made a living despite the state government, despite the federal government, despite everything we have to deal with. There's already enough. Government keeps growing. You need somebody there who does not have a conflict of interest, who sees the implications of this every day, does not spend a lifetime or part of a lifetime in some bureaucratic role, going by the numbers, going by the books, being nice to everybody. There's a time and a place for it, but at some point, if we're going to stop the degradation of quality of life in order, because the government needs somebody like me up there. Thank you very well.
I'm not the kind of guy that's going to carry a chip on my shoulder going into every meeting. I think pretty well expressed that, you know, somebody who can work across the aisle that has the ability to listen as well as to talk, to, you know, valuable input of other folks that are on the other side of the aisle. It's extremely important. Doesn't mean you forget where you came from and the things that are on your mind. But sometimes, especially in a supermajority like we have here against us, or, you know, against the conservative side, against the Republican side, you know, you've got to find ways to find common ground. County commissioners know that. You've got to find ways to find common ground with your constituents as well as your fellow commissioners in your county, where you can have disagreements. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm born and bred north. This is where I've always been. I mentioned my uncle having a small horse farm in Ranch River and Shoes County and Redmond, and then over Jefferson County, where Jackson School Mechanics are there in a small farm that I spent a lot of time on. I learned a lot of values working in that area as a young person. But I was also a small businessman all these years. And, you know, paid my own bills, at some major companies, supplying financial products. They care less about my costs and expenses. So I've worked on that level of being a small businessman, and I know what that feels like. Months are good and months are bad. I found it's not going to work because we have changed our entire water system. I've worked on water issues. I've worked on all the issues that we've talked about here today and then some. All the time I was in small business, and I'm still in my community as a planning commission, being my main office. And I continue to do that as a port commissioner. It was an elected position. It was a non-paid position. The county actually paid more than this job. So we're not in it for the money up here. This is more being a part of our community. And that's what I continue to say. Thank you. Thank you for your opportunity to be here today. Thank you for your commitment to come over here. We've got a long ways over. Pretty dry. It's done pretty dry.
I'm honored to be here. If you had asked me October 20th, what I was going to be doing this winter, sure as heck wouldn't have been talking much about it. When Senator Vince called me and said he's not going to run for re-election, but he's going to run for congressional district number 2. The next day, I withdrew my nomination, my filing for House District 60, and I filed for election for this position because I wanted this job. I did not think at the time it would be, I would be going through the appointment process. I filed, and I'm the only fully committed filer for this position. Because I think it's important that we have someone that lives in Eastern Oregon that has seen both sides of the fence. I mean, I grew up in the small business. I grew up fighting fire. I work for the city government. I understand every component of infrastructure and industrial uses. I understand the land use planning process. And there are a lot of components that we face as legislators, that we face as commissioners every day. You'll go to work one day thinking, this is what I'm going to do today. And you will not do one part of that because you'll deal with what comes in the door. And that's what we as legislators have to do every day. And the way to get work done, you don't look for opportunities to take shots at people. You work with consensus building and you work together on things. And that's what I believe in doing. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for coming to this one.
Okay, now it's time to vote, folks. Can I ask a question on that? Okay. Some of these that I've been involved with over the last 8-10 years have been 2 rounds where narrow it down and you vote again. Is it 1 round today or 2? 1 round is what I've been told. Jeff? Okay. So, yes.
I'd like to take an opportunity to thank all the gentlemen.
Any other comments? One more question, or maybe not just one commissioner, one vote, still waiting? Yes. So somebody's doing the calculation there. We have 3 or 4 people thinking, it'll only take 5 or 6 hours. Yeah. Can you put in the past have paper because we wrote it down? I remember that we did it on paper because the votes are weighted and I said it would be easier. Okay, orally, right? Easier is fine with me, but I didn't tally it up right. That's, well, I think there's both sides, there's one right now. I think they should have a representative. Each guy should have a representative watching. I'm still an auditor, I'll check it out. There you go. So we'll start with you, Baker County, come first. Commissioner Richardson, we'll take your vote. Open my mouth. Yes, and those, but slow so they can. Okay, I'm gonna cast my vote for, Baker County for Ian Kinley. Okay? Appreciate all of you. You all had some good answers. Oh, all of you, every one of you. You guys got it? Mr. Bennett. My vote for Lynn Kinley. Mr. Bill Harvey.
I will be for Lynn Benley. I'd like to explain something. I don't know you gentlemen had the opportunity to work. I hope to have the opportunity to work for you.
Deschutes County, Commissioner Henderson.
I vote for Eric Watson.
Okay. Commissioner Adair. Okay. On the phone, Commissioner DeBone.
Lynn Benley.
Okay. Did you guys hear that? Grant County, Judge Myers. Commissioner Sam Palmer.
Lynn Finley.
Commissioner Hampshire. Harney County, Judge Reynolds. Commissioner Nora. Commissioner Owens.
Thank you, Paul.
Jefferson County. Commissioner Houston. Okay. Commissioner Forty.
Lynn Finley.
Commissioner Simlick. Lake County. Commissioner Winters.
Lynn Finley.
Commissioner Williams.
Lynn Finley.
Commissioner Albertson.
Lynn Finley.
Malheur County. Commissioner Wilson.
Finley.
Commissioner Haas. Dan Joyce. Lynn Finley. And thank you all. Wasco County. Commissioner Hagee.
Rod Runyon,
Commissioner Kramer.
Rod Runyon.
Commissioner Schwartz.
Lynn Finley,
Wheeler County. Judge Morley.
Lynn Finley.
Commissioner Ordway. He's not there. Commissioner Ordway not there? Certainly not. Okay, Commissioner Schaefer.
Rod Runyon.
That concludes my list. Clerks.
So that's Harney's who's carrying most of it. Jefferson, but they had one for
Issues. One.
no, actually, the shoots had two. The shoots had two for
How big your phone?
and one for the other two.
Now here is Wasco 16, Wasco.
Wait, so that's what you're doing.
Should be, yeah.
Break the work. Wasco did 60 votes per county. So each commissioner's 5.3.
Don't get that.
In Lake County, we get 1 vote, 1.33 commissioners.
I'm gonna wait until the time.
3%.
your thing gets all.
I bet that's present us the same percentage.
Have to wait all the time. Yeah. That's what I was saying. I wonder if they are.
Yeah, just hope that's
I think
not
that's pretty cool.
John Schaefer, his calculator.
What growth from the commissioner out of Oscar County.
There's one for 11.34.
Right.
Now,
Was harnessed.
Big for all you to sign.
Grant County.
Yeah.
Five.
I appreciate everyone, if you came up to that, I want $100 on this. Just kidding. Anyways, John, just, Central Eastern Oregon, I'm your guy. I'm walking on that team, walking aside, and I was talking to Lynn here. You know, if there's something you need help testifying on, a good quick study, and I'm glad to help, I'm gonna say a lot, anyway, I'm always glad to help on Central Eastern Oregon subjects, so. Thank you all so much for coming.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Really.
Thank you, guys. I just want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you for your support. I'm humbled by that. This is a tremendous opportunity. It's humbling. I've done a lot of things in my career. And the first time I stood in before the house I wasn't there, I got a little choked up. I mean, and whenever you walk in there, it still does. It's a big deal. This is a big deal as well. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate your support. I absolutely will love to work with you on a regular, continual basis. And if you don't hear from me regularly enough, call me. Sometime in the next few weeks, I'm gonna reach out to you. I'm gonna get all of your contact information so we can have continual dialogue on all these issues. Because the only way we're successful is if we all know what the heck we're doing. I can't thank you enough for your support. Thank you. Thank you, Caller. I'll be the short guy.
So Melanie, you already have it figured out, we're gonna do individual signatures and you're gonna email those in. Or they're still gonna pass around from county to county.
Think of it as a pizza. Put your
The
phone.
Secretary of State told me you couldn't, so Kim,
do you guys need anything more from the people on the phone, or can we hang up?
We're trying to, I'm not sure how you guys are supposed to sign off on your, election.
We got a note they're supposed to fax us something.
Okay, you guys, so we haven't adjourned yet, but we're very close. Everybody's leaving. Yeah, they have to sign off for it, this out. Don't let it go. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. I'll be back that way.
We can get up there on Monday. Next Monday or
Thank you.
the legislature. I think we're able to pack it before.
They don't even have to try that.
I think we can close that and get off the phone.
This is Lake County on the phone. So are we going to be faxing this?
Yes.
Thank
Welcome to being in Lake County.
At this time, Melanie, you'll put together the sheet for us to sign. We already have copies of that, as emailed out to us earlier today. And then fax it, is that the direction
No.
they told you? They're gonna fax it to us, we're gonna sign
Mm-hmm.
it back.
So she's hoping you guys will be available to sign late Wednesday, early Thursday. She thinks.
You're around. Okay. The other option that Commissioner Williams was saying, both these guys are gonna be up in Salem as of Monday. So if we needed to deliver something in person, we can do that, but if they're faxing around,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes in, we'll sign it.
I will not be here Wednesday. I will be in Bend for the BOPTA
Yeah.
training, so I will not be here.
Yeah,
I'll be back here on Thursday.
Okay, so, special session will adjourn at 9 minutes after 3.